Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sonic the Hedgehog here, and I'm back, of course, for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and welcome back for some more of the Sonic's Game Gear Marathon, ladies and gentlemen. And today, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Game Gear / Sega Master System. So, yeah, last time I believe we managed to did done those 3 zones in one video, which are both Underground Zone, Sky High Zone, and of course, Aqua Lake Zone. And today for this episode, we're about to continue on and move on into the 4th zone in the game, known as Green Hills Zone. No, not Green Hill from Sonic 1, instead it calls it Green Hills Zone. So even then though, that actually represents when there was like, it feels more likely identical to the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, except the fact that, as you can hear in the background, that's actually a reference to something if you ever guys played the Japanese and European soundtrack on Sonic CD. This is one of the tracks that usually kind of reminds me of the song which is actually called You Can Do Anything by Sonic CD from the likes of the Japanese and European soundtrack, which thankfully you did manage to have that option on the HD re-release version, but I kind of wish it has vocals on there. But even then though, that's not that major of a props anyway, so even then though it's pretty cool though to see how this usually turns out, so even then though, yeah. This level's pretty easy, unlike how it does in any other levels, because even then though, it reminds me of something almost related to the Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, except the fact that there are a ton of rings, and also a ton of 1-ups. Even then though, I think this level's quite generous with extra lives, probably because there are quite literally all over the place in this level, so yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Now we move on to Act 2, where I believe there's going to be a Chaos Emerald up ahead. So even then though, it's not that hard to get, but even then though, you have to deal with the leaps of faith, much like how it does in the Sky High Zone, except the fact that you don't have to deal with these cloud platforms, thank god, because even then though, that can get pretty tricky for the most part. So, anyways, there's another freebie man over there, so even then though, I managed to got myself, I don't know how much lives I got in total, but even then though, the game tells me like, it still says just 9 to be specific, but you can't actually max out up to 10 or whatever, so even then though, that sometimes it sticks up with, you know, just 9 lives for the time being. Well, you get more lives nonetheless though, so even then though, I'm afraid that it can't actually show you what how much lives you've got currently, unlike in Sonic 1. So anyway, now, with the Chaos Emerald, as I mentioned earlier, it was actually on the higher up in the hills. Now, in order to actually reach those, that you need to actually get used to with this green springs, because that way, you'll be launched higher up in the sky, and then as soon as you actually get to this point, there you go, 4th Chaos Emerald required, and it looks like we only got about 2 more to go, so even then though, that we're pretty much in the halfway point of the game. So even then though, speaking of such though, is that we're actually on the halfway point of the game as a matter of fact, like this is Act 2 of Green Hills Zone, so even then though, that's actually going pretty quick and super fast as well. So, oh wow, looks like these flowers is about to covering up Dr. Robotnik's face on this little gold signpost. And now we move on to Act 3, that, I actually kind of like it, or I found it quite easy, but at the same time, hate it. The reason why? Because due to platforming. Yes, there's gonna be a lot of times that, as you can see, I got poked by spikes, and even then, this is another luck-based event. So even though you can't really tell what's beneath you, so even then, that, you have to be right on with precisions and all that stuff. So that's why that the Game Gear version is considerably much more guessing aside of things, whilst in the Master System version, that, you know, you can see everything. So even then, because of, you know, the horizon and stuff like that. So all you have to do here is basically you have to get used to what this green springs, as I established earlier. But even though you have to deal with a lot of leaps of faith going on, so even then there's going to be a lot of times that we need to reach onto that specific areas, most likely in the hills and stuff like that. There's going to be a lot of times when this happens, so even then I've now managed to reach to it. Alright, so the 4th boss fight in the game is actually formed of the Sumo Pig. He's actually pretty easy for the most part, even though it's not as hard as the likes of the first boss in the game. I still point things out on the first boss is considerably the hardest fight in the game. But even though this guy's pretty easy, so even though you have to get used to it, the only thing you need to actually point things out though is that sometimes it comes in a random pattern. So even though sometimes you can go overhead, while other times they just go straight forward, while other times they just go onto this little curved hill. So even though in order to actually hit him, is that when he shows up on his face, after when he's finished with his ball formation until he bumps into the wall, that's how you deal the damage. So even though, there you go. So even then, I only died about at least once in this particular zone, which is okay, but even then, sometimes it's not that usually in a perfect run on this particular zones, I gotta be honest with you guys, because even then, it's really hard to actually do a perfect run on this specific zone alone. But that can wait until during the final zone in the game. Next up, we have is yet another unique zone into this game introduced, and that actually forms of the Gimmick Mountain Zone. Get it? Because of Gimmick and MT means mountains. So even then though, technically because of the in-game instruction manual that does come with in the Sonic Gems collection compilations, even then though, they did point things out, this zone is actually called Gimmick Mountain Zone. So even then though, as far as the level suggests, there's gonna be a lot of gimmicky stuff. Like for instance, this little spinny platform over there, very similar to the likes of the Scrap Brain Zone types of wheelie stuff, and also at the same time Sonic CD as well. So even then that I do really like this zone for the most part. The only thing I'm actually kind of a little bit the only things I don't like about this level, oh god, these bombs. These bombs are back from the likes of this Sky Base Zone from Sonic 1. But even then, I think this might actually get a little bit annoying in this game. So even then, it's really hard to tell that, because, you know... Another thing is worth mentioning, though, is that the enemies do respawn every time you exit off screen and go back onto the previous screen, which does make it a little bit annoying for the most part, because it reminds me like I was playing a Mega Man game. So even then, though, like Mega Man 2 or Mega Man 3, or even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES, don't forget that. But still, that's predictably the most annoying part about that level for me, or in this case, the entirety of the game itself for me. And another thing I had to point things out though is that another thing I don't like about this level in general is the fact that sometimes it gets really confusing at times. But even then, it's not so bad here, because even then though, that at least I can probably know what I was going to be doing. So even then though, I need to get used to with it. Because yeah, it has been a really long time since I actually played this game from time to time. So even then though, that's only because of how the fact that I haven't played this game for almost 10 years ago now. That's only because of how the fact that I couldn't actually, you know, getting used to how the fact that I haven't sort of touched upon these Game Gear stuff on Sonic Gems collection for quite a long time now. And even especially noticeable in Effector Man 1 and 2. Because yes, in Sonic Gems collection version, that you can actually get yourselves 2 unlockable stuff, which are essentially these 2 Mega Drive games, which are not Sonic related, but being developed by, I believe is actually forms of the Sega developing team itself. Which even then they usually create Vector Man 1 and Vector Man 2 for the Mega Drive. So even then though, that I found these games to be quite cool though, but even then I haven't really touched upon these games for quite some time. But even though the only time I actually did play them is actually forms of the Sega Mega Collection, or no, Sonic, no, what I keep saying Sonic, the Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection, so, that was my fault, so I'll be right back. I feel blind for a second. Oh, I'm an idiot. There was a trolley over there. Because yeah, so most like how it does in the underground zone is that there's going to be a minecart that we definitely need to ride on. Because the minecart can actually bust through spaikes, which I haven't sort of discovered that during right about now. Even though technically it already does that in the underground zone as well. So, oh wow, the end of the level is actually on the left side this time, rather than as opposed to the right side. Which, I think this is the only time you're going to be seeing this little end of a level that is usually on the left side this time, which I found is kind of interesting. Alright, the 5th Chaos Emerald is going to be super easy, because you rather know why? Well, if you have a first time play for this game, you might actually get confused. So even then though, this is how you're supposed to get the 5th Chaos Emerald before you actually get yourselves the 6th and the final Chaos Emerald at the end of the game. You have to find this invisible wall, and then you traverse for this point here, and I'm sure many people already done that already, and then just navigate it for this little scrap brain type of dizziness platforming, and then ignore that, and there you go, 5th Chaos Emerald required, so only one more to go. So I believe the final one was going to be at the 6th zone, so that's not going to be on Act 2 on the other hand, so even then though, you'll see why in just a moment. But even though that can wait until during the next video, I'm afraid. But even though that's only because of how the fact that I was practically going to actually say right now, oh shoot. These cheap enemy placements at times, always just trying to ruin myself so seriously. Yeah, Act 2 is not that it's not that hard, but even then though, sometimes it gets really confusing in Act 1 though for me, so it's only because of the fact that I haven't really touched this game for quite a long time. Are these supposed to be these black pig enemies, ever since more likely equivalent version of Sonic 1 enemies from the Game Gear version? Well, I do know for the fact they're a lot more detailed this time around, so even then though, they just make it a little bit more polished to it. But there we go, that's Act 2 of, you know, Gimmick Mountain Zone, and now we're about to be moving on to Act number 3. So I believe what bosses are going to be on that particular act as far as that's been concerned of. Maybe, we'll find out during that time. But of course, first things first, we have to deal with a lot of platforming going on here. Sometimes it can be rather annoying at times if you actually kept on dying on those specific boss battles alone. You have to go through all this stuff again, which even then though, that gives me a hard time on Green Hills Zone, and especially noticeable on Underground Zone. Well, not so bad in the Underground Zone for platforming, but boss battle itself was a nightmare. But however though, compared to Green Hills Zone, for the likes of how it usually just becomes in the platforming section, it's a damn nightmare, and plus it's luck-based as well. And even then, I don't mind the boss battle, it's just getting towards the end of the boss battle, or the boss arena, is actually a bit of a pain. So, anywho though, so this feels kind of slow, because even then though, you have to get used to what this little moving platform, so even then I managed to got there in the end. So, anyways, now we move on to the 5th boss, which should be a robot Pumper? Pumper, I thought you'd be my friend. Oh, wait a minute, it's a robot-sized version. Sorry, I just confessed it for myself a reference to that popular Disney film, The Lion King, aka my favorite film of all time, which even then is probably true. So anyways, in this guy, it's pretty simple. We have to basically, every time you actually guide him to either each side of the wall, sometimes he just bangs into the wall, and then other times he actually just temporarily spins out, and then as soon as his spikes actually blend in, then you're basically trying to attack his head. A forewarning though is that sometimes he occasionally just pops up these little crumbling rocks from the ceiling, which you definitely need to be careful of, because even then, again, you have no rings whatsoever, so there you go. This might be the final time we're going to be seeing this robotic capsule every once in a while, and what the hell was up with my score letters screwed up? I don't know, maybe it just happens in most cases though anyway. Alright, here we go on to probably my least favorite level in the entire game, at least for my honest opinion though anyway, Scrambled Egg Zone. Oh boy, this is the level I always attempted to despise the most. Even especially noticeable in the next level after this, but even then though, that I think this is the perfect example that how the fact that why I managed to haven't touched this game for quite a long time, for almost 10 years ago, is probably because I got to this point here in Act 1 of Scrambled Egg Zone, and even Act 2, oh my god, don't get me started on Act 2. Which even then though, that level just essentially made me rage quit, and even then though, that's why I decided to take a break on this game for almost 10 years. Jesus Christ. But again, since that Sonic Gems collection did actually came out in 2005, so even then though, that's practically 12 years old in that time for that regard. So basically in this level suggests is that the main gimmick of this level suggests is the fact that we have to constantly going through those tubes. So even then though, every time when you actually traverse through the tubes, it's more likely a lap width basically. So even then though, every time when you press either one of these directional paths, you're actually going to be forced on what direction you're going to be moving on. So even though sometimes it might be pretty simple at first, but it's just that it's so damn difficult, and plus it's a little bit confusion sake. So even then though, that you know, the game only gets harder for this point onwards, and these tubes themselves can get rather annoying for this point onwards, because sometimes they go really too fast. Although the only time it makes it a little bit easier for you, if you want to make this level so easy like this, I highly suggest you constantly have to pause the game until you actually realize before you proceed to this tube, because the more you actually go faster, then the more that you lose track. So even then though, that's why I'm essentially going to say this about this part until right about now. So yeah, I digress though, so yeah, there's nothing towards over there, so let's get going. Okay, quick edit right there, sorry about that folks. Oh my god, I can't stand this section, so even then that's if you're probably wondering why my time is actually reset, probably because of the save states and what have you, which I must point things out though, is that all the comment section might think that, oh, you cheated, you must have managed to be a little bit of a pussy or whatever. So, but even then, I'm not convincing for myself at this point, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the fact that I haven't usually, completed. I mean, I repeat, haven't completed any of the Game Gear Sonic titles for the longest time. So anyways, there's another freebie man here. So in case if I want to actually give myself some extra lives to begin with. But believe me, this level is usually a lot of, you know, trial and error annoyances here and there. And sometimes that gives me a lot of pain to go through. Especially for this last part in general. So even then, although, to be fair, Act 1 isn't too bad. Because even then, though, you don't have to worry about the, trying to actually deal with this little, kind of maze syndrome and stuff like that. And especially there aren't any too many spikes. Although there are some situations where if you made certain mistakes on those spike platforms, then you have to redo the whole level again. Because, you know, there aren't any checkpoints in this level. Or especially in the entire game itself, there aren't any checkpoints anywhere. Which even I know that makes it a little bit too challenging to compare to the likes of the Mega Drive counterparts. So that's why I have to keep pointing things out there, but whatever. Beggars sells can't be choosers, I suppose. Alright, so in this part right there, that's, oh yeah, I must push the left button, so even then I could potentially just try to finish this level or just get this over with. Well, I'm not super mad or anything like that, it's just the fact that I always attempt to get confused and lost in these places, so, well, mainly for this level most likely. So yeah, if you don't manage to collect these 5 regular Chaos Emeralds, then obviously I will discuss more details as soon as we finish the game. So yeah, join us next time with Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Game Gear / Sega Master System. It's the fact that we moved on to Act 2 of Scrambled Egg Zone. So see you guys then. Later, fellas.